Most of my jerseys in my basement are people I would consider friends.
Cool.
My one really cool one I have is an old Nolan Ryan one from the Astros tricolor when
Oh,
he was my boss when I was with the Texas Rangers. And the reason I love that one is because I love talking about Nolan. He's exactly who you would expect him to be. He's not warm and fuzzy. He's he's polite, but man, he even at I think he was probably in his mid to late 60s when I know him. Man, I was still scared of him. He was a roughneck. So it just says to Darren, thank you for your work for the organization, Nolan Ryan.
Jameel Muhammad and Jeff Cardozo dive into the hobby, which is sports cards, trading cards, as well as all other collectibles, right now on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast, live from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill.
Hey everybody, here we go again. It is the Meelypod Hobby Podcast with the usual crew, Jameel Muhammad. I am Jeff Cardozo. We are coming inside of Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, the podcast room here at Celebration Point in good old Gainesville. It's finally starting to warm up.
Yeah.
Maybe a little spring, which could then lead to spring training.
Hey.
But a lot of stuff going on. But obviously, you can't talk baseball until football is done, and we'll start with the Super Bowl, but we are going to talk baseball in our second segment because we've got Darren O'Day, 15-year Major League Baseball veteran, played for 6 different teams, was an All-Star, and he won't like to brag about himself, but there was a 4 or 5 year period where he was maybe the best middle reliever in the entire game. You look at the earned run average and the numbers and everything else. Darren O'Day was special, throwing it sidearm.
Sidey.
So pretty crazy to do that, and pretty crazy that the Super Bowl is here. The Chiefs are, in it damn right again. But I know people are laughing that have Patrick Mahomes rookies, and dude just keeps getting back there year after year.
This year was interesting because everybody was on the Lamar and Josh Allen train. You know what I mean? We had even had a guest, in here, Michael Collins singing Eagle songs.
Yeah.
So glad the Bucks beat him that weekend. But now he's in the Super Bowl, so we're looking forward to seeing this. I hope there's no script, Jeff. I think everybody's just worried about the 3 back-to-back, Taylor Swift, Mahomes, all this. I hope there's no script. I hope we don't see some weird calls. I just want to see a fair game, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see. I'm a big Mahomes fan. I think you are too. I think we enjoy how he plays the game. So we'll see what it does for the hobby. I think a lot of people had kind of put a lot of their eggs into Josh Allen going to pull the upset, or Lamar's going to pull the upset this year, and they didn't falter. They've looked even stronger in the playoffs, I think.
Well, and I think you just and I know we don't really give coaches credit, but think about what Andy Reid has been able to do. And speaking of Philly, he took Donovan McNabb to 4 straight NFC Championship games, so he did it there. Never was able to get over the hump, and then now obviously doing it with Patrick Mahomes, but just. There wasn't a ton of talent or stars, but they made plays when they had to. Yeah. And you give a lot of credit to Andy Reid and what he's been able to do. So it's almost like I wish there was an Andy Reid rookie card because that thing might be going up.
They have some. They have some cards out there. He's got some autograph cards too.
Okay.
One thing that makes me, as you bring up coaching, I would love to hear your take. If they can three-peat, do you put him ahead of Belichick? As the greatest modern day coach? There's people who go back and look at Lombardi and other people. But
yeah, I don't know if you can because of the number of Super Bowls, and when that's almost like the telltale all or end all be all for what you strive for. But certainly second, right behind Belichick, and that'll be interesting.
I wonder what is going to propel him to get to that? Is he going to have to win 5 Super Bowls or whatever it is?
You win 5 in a row, then that's
something crazy,
something like that. But then what do you even we got Tay-Tay on the Grammys the other night, and she's still visible, and certainly they show her several times during the games. I actually, I guess I'm maybe regretful to admit this, but I have the Kelsey Mix cereal in my cupboard right now.
Hey.
It's actually really good.
Kelsey
there's
Mix.
4 great cereals all into one, but I saw it and I was like, I got to get that.
You got to try it.
Are Kelsey cards a thing? Does that continue to be?
He's always. The thing about Kelsey is I think his value is very stagnant. It doesn't really drop.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hyper increase because people know what he is.
Sure.
One of the best tight ends, if not the best tight end ever. There'll be a lot of debate about that. Seeing if he finishes his career after this year. But his cards are always intriguing because you got a lot of he's a fan favorite, right? And I will say I get a lot of women who ask for his cards.
Wow.
So there's certain people in the Major League Baseball, NFL, and basketball that they ask for that's a female favorite, and he's one of them. He's on the top 5 list there for sure. So yeah, his stuff does well. It's gonna be exciting to see things like Xavier Worthy. Rickard, does he pop out? Does he do something big? Does Jalen Hurts win the game? Will this propel Jalen Hurts into the conversation to be in that 2018 mix with? The 2020 mix with Burrow and Herbert, which has always been the focus. And Hurts is kind of this side product, loves this side product. So if he can get that Super Bowl championship, I mean, Burrow and Herbert don't have one yet. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in cards. And as you mentioned, baseball is right around the corner, picking up steam. NBA is getting very interesting with a very, very wild trade Saturday night. People were waking up to thinking it was a hoax, right? Yeah. I mean, Shams has got hacked, to see Luka going to L.A. and feel bad. Your heart breaks for the Dallas Mavericks fans because they had invested so much into him. But who knows? Who knows what will happen? We'll see what happens with the next 2-3 years.
Yeah, it's almost like we buried the lead because that has been so much conversation this entire week about what impact that's going to make. And I think even maybe for the short term, getting a big guy like AD, who his last game as a Laker, he went 40-20.
Sure.
I mean, that's going to be a big impact for Dallas. And I mean, Kyrie, obviously, he's been really, really good. And but I guess you just wonder with a 25-year-old now going to LA.
Yeah.
It's like, we seeing the Kobe again, and then LeBron takes over after that. Now it's Luka's turn. So LA is going to be getting a superstar for, you would think, many, many years.
And I think from the hobby standpoint, a lot of people are holding Luka cards right now because they want to see what happens. And then what happens with LeBron cards? They've started to see an uptick already.
Wow.
So it'll be interesting to see what pans out with the Lakers. For the Bronny haters, there's all these memes out there with Luka and Bronny now. And I think I saw a meme the other night of we need this card, and it was LeBron, Luka, Laker uniform, autograph 101. So who knows what might be down the pipeline soon.
Okay. Yeah, it's coming. Well, I mean, everybody's doing breaks nowadays, and different things are happening. And certainly, I'm not nearly into it as much as you are. But I have seen some news about the backyard breaks controversy.
Yeah.
So let everybody know what's going on with that and
sure.
what stemmed from that.
Well, if you're in the hobby, I think everybody and their mother probably knows. There's been so many different people posting about it and giving you their 10 cents and telling you, what to do or what Top should do or what not should do or these kinds of things. The backstory is simple. There's breakers that are out of South Florida. They've made an incredible business. The Telford brothers, Nick and Grant Telford, known them in the hobby for a long time. They've built an incredible machine. 100+ employees, I think. But unfortunately, their brand and their shtick has always kind of been that, edgy, fratty, a little bit inappropriate. I think you could say that when it comes to how they break cards. Well, unfortunately, there was a stream that Grant was on a couple nights ago, and it was on Whatnot, and said some really, really, I think, disturbing things to a lot of people. Really, it's put the hobby in a weird place because you have the biggest breakers. I mean, backyard breaks are the biggest breakers. They make probably the most money. They have the most high-end breaks. They have the craziest pulls. And you see that now in these comments, towards, think about women, right? Women in the hobby has been a big push that I think a lot of people now are really upset about, like it's a step backwards. You got just the idea of, what he said, and I'm not going to go into the details of it, but, it really makes parents and families look second, a second look at, like, what am I getting into? You know what I mean? And so we're in a weird spot. I think the one thing I'd like to say, just as a shop owner, is simple, is that is not the hobby. That is not representative of, I think, what a lot of really good shops, I'm just going to speak from a shop perspective, a lot of really good shops are putting out there. There are incredible shops that do so much for the community, that do so much to help, that I pride our shop on being a safe place for kids. You know what I mean? We want it to be that. So you're seeing more of that now. And again, I have my own personal thoughts, but just looking at it from a global perspective, this is a shot to the hobby, and it's a shot to it's going to affect a lot of things. So hopefully we can rebound, and hopefully that people will see that this is just hopefully an outlier. Breaking and behavior in breaking is something I've always thought about too. Everybody's got access to phones. So whether you are a rated R or an adult type breaker, you're still putting something out there that kids can see and kids want to see because they think it's edgy and cool.
Of course.
And that's the problem, right? So I think we've always kind of just adopted that model of we want to be family first, PG-13. We don't want to be, somebody that's causing a stir and leading kids in the wrong direction. So we'll see where this goes. Will Whatnot and will Tops and other people suspend or take away accounts? I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. I do know that Whatnot suspended his specific account. And so they've taken some action there. That's not going to be good enough for some people, and that's going to be too much for some people. And we're going to have this kind of fight constantly. What I would say is, if you are listening, it's better to focus on the positive, and it's better to focus on where we can go in the hobby than to just dwell and hyper focus, I think, on punishing people. When the truth is, so many of the people that I've seen commenting on this stuff are also in that same boat where they do some pretty, rude things, I'll say. So my mom always say in her little English accent, she'd always say, "Pick out the plank in your own eye." Like she'd always say that to me, and it's a good verse to live by, because I think we all have things and issues that we have. Are they apologetic? I hope so. Will they make changes? I hope so. But we'll see where that goes. So just remember, the hobby is a place, I think, for everybody, for family, for kids specifically. And I think that we can do a better job specifically in things like our breaking behavior.
Yeah, certainly so. Yeah, big part of it. And speaking of kids, it seems like there's just a continuation of this Pokemon influx.
Yeah.
Just, I was in the store the other day, and you've got the Pokemon section and that way, and then some other cards that way, and everybody was that way.
Yeah.
Where the Pokemon cards were. Is that continuing to just be like a big thing?
Yeah, I just made a video. We were going to put it out too about our sports card people becoming Pokemon people. Like because of pricing, are they getting priced out? Because of different things, because of grading and all this stuff. So there's definitely a shift happening. I enjoy it because I get to see it from the background, right?
Yeah.
I get to see a dad or a mom coming into the card shop, and they love sports or they're Gator fans, but their kids are getting into cards now. And so then they kind of, the whole family is getting involved in collecting. And the nice thing about cards, we have a big trading day this weekend coming up too, is like it gets people thinking about, value, trade. It gets them thinking about how they protect their cards. Do they grade a card? And these kinds of things that, that wasn't a conversation 10, 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. So now that we're getting into more of that, and we see more kids getting into the grading, we've seen a huge influx of Pokemon grading in the shop as well. Justice and I have been talking about that, and just how much is 50-50 now between sports. It used to be about 75-25. Now it's about 50-50.
Wow.
So that's a great thing. That's a great thing for the hobby. We keep selling out of stuff, Jeff. Like I'll stock the shelves 6, 10, 20 items deep. Next 3 days later, it's gone.
Wow.
So it just shows that there's a fervor for that. We live in a college town too, a lot of young adults, so a lot of people are into it. So I'm excited to see where this goes and see if it can continue into 2025.
Yeah, heck yeah. And I'm excited. You mentioned that trading day, so tell everybody a little bit more about that. I know you've got the card show coming up there in South Carolina, so. You never stop, man.
Yeah, there's got to be something going on in the shop always, right? So, yeah, we announced it last podcast about the Jason Williams PSA Day. That'll be in March 29th. We have our trading day this weekend. So for those of you who are listening, if you're in town, if you're in North Florida, South Georgia, Central Florida, come on out to the trading day. We have so many people that come out. It's such a great community, trading, selling, buying. We do raffles. We get pizza. It's just a fun time for, what I think a card shop should be. And then the Upstate Card Show is going to be February 21st, 22nd. We're going to make it an annual show, not 2 times a year, but once a year. And we're just looking forward to that. I think there's already 100+ tables sold for that show, and it's going to be our 1-year anniversary for South Carolina. So we're going to do some free breaks for kids and for adults. We're going to do raffles. We're going to have free cards for kids. So it's going to be a fun kind of weekend as well. A lot of things happening.
Yeah, for sure. That is certainly awesome, and encourage each and every one of you to come be a part of all of those things, both here and up in South Carolina. All right, I want you to be a part of this interview as well. We're going to talk to Darren O'Day, former Baltimore Oriole. It's probably where he's known the most, but a walk-on that actually didn't even make the team his first year at Florida, had to come back and then start throwing sidearm. So he was throwing over the top, got cut, came back the next year throwing sidearm, and then the rest is history. So really cool to get his perspective on a really long major league career. And now he's a radio hack like me, just doing things for the Atlanta Braves. We'll talk to Darren when we come back here on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast. Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life. And the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
This is Jameel, owner of the Meelypop shop, Gainesville's home for collectibles of all sorts, including every single type of sports cards, whether it be Panini, Topps, Leaf, Upper Deck. We have it. Come on in, get yourself a box, a pack, get yourself some supplies, get into our breaks, get your Pokemon, get your Yu-Gi-Oh! All the other different kinds of TCG products that we carry and shop are always fully in stock. You can find our stuff on our website as well, meelypops.com. That's another way you can interact with the store, or you can just come into the shop. We're located off 39th Avenue by I-75 behind Walgreens and Sonny's. Stop on by. We're open every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you can check us out on our social media platforms: Instagram, TikTok, whatnot, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We'd love to see you. Come on out to the shop, have some fun, be a part of the card community here in Gainesville, and always go Gators.
All right, hey everybody, welcome back inside Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, the podcast room. Jeff and Jameel, time to bring on our guests for this week, and it is a guy that I have known, for a really, really long time, and if he wouldn't have made the Gator baseball team, I would have never met this guy, which is crazy to think about. A guy that, never even potentially played college ball to becoming an all-star and a 800-year Major League veteran. That is Darren O'Day, who is joining us now. Darren, what's up, man?
Ouch. A little subtle compliment there, Jeff. 800-year Major League career. I'm proud of that, but, man, that makes me old now.
No, we're all old. Like, we got the gray hair working and different things going on, but obviously you got to be proud of that. But I guess first off, how's retired life? You did it so long, it's weird. You're probably just golfing and goofing off nowadays.
Yeah, it's been great. I'm busier than I ever thought I'd be. I picked up a gig doing some radio work for the Braves, doing about 60, 70 games a year, just doing color commentary for mostly their away and some home games, and really enjoying it. Doing some volunteering at home, hanging out with the kids, doing the actual parenting thing instead of being gone for 8 months a year has been a big change, and I'm really enjoying it. So, being able to go to all these games, practices, all that good stuff.
Do you ever, like, now being a couple years away from it, get to just reflect on what that time meant and, how special it really was to be a part of, teams and different things for so long?
Oh, absolutely. As you mentioned, I was lucky enough to play 15 years, and I think what kept me hanging around the last few was not that I was still loved playing baseball. It was that I just loved being a teammate, and I loved being part of a group, working towards something, having the same group of guys around each other for 8 months. And what I really loved was screwing around and goofing off in that locker room atmosphere that's just so unique. That's really the thing I miss the most about playing, and I'm grateful for being able to do that for so long. And in retirement, you kind of try to find a substitute for that environment.
So 15-year career, Darren, 6 different teams. I'm sure you had good and bad experiences along the way. I was wondering, when you had your first big league pitch, the emotions that are like tied up in that. Can you remember that? Like, getting up there on the mound and like taking that deep breath. All right, here we go. Like, do you remember that moment?
It's hard, Jameel. It really is. That was 2008. So I was a young man. It was a shock promotion. 3 of our veteran relievers got hurt in the Anaheim Angels bullpen that year, right before spring training ended. So 3 of us young guys got to audition in the major leagues, and that's exactly what it was. I came straight from AA. I didn't even stop at AAA the previous season, so it was a huge jump for me. I didn't know a single person on the team. So needless to say that, opening day 2008, when I made my debut, I wasn't feeling particularly comfortable. I didn't have all my buddies around me, so I was just a young kid that was like a deer in the headlights. And I'll be honest, you can't feel anything. You have so much adrenaline that first appearance that you don't really feel your body. You're just hoping that your muscle memory works and that your pitches go in the general vicinity you want them to.
Yeah, it's crazy just to think about that moment and
Yeah.
How special it might have been. And it's awesome to hear you talk about teammates, because I know that's what you are, and how much you enjoy being around. And I'm sure even these last couple of years getting to hang out in Atlanta with those guys, and coming back to a place you probably wanted to come to, even when you probably could have come in those Baltimore years. But like, why was that so special? Like, why was it hanging out with 20 or so guys or hanging out in bullpens and just doing dinners? Like, what made that so real?
Yeah, it really comes down to brotherhood. We're social animals, and it's rare that you get to be around 25 of your best buddies for 6-8 hours a day, and there's like really the only thing important you have to do that day is get ready to play. Whatever it takes to do that. But the rest of the time, it's just unadulterated fun. And those guys, we get on each other's nerves over the course of the season. But that's I had an older brother when I'd grown up, and we fought all the time. So that's just part of being close. But yeah, it's hard to replicate that, and it really is hard to explain how much fun it is. The travel's first class, and you get to go to nice dinners, and there's definitely some perks in that aspect in terms of reservations and great hotels, and then just a lot of guys who have similar life paths to you and similar interests. Obviously, hard work, baseball, and then fun interests off the field as well.
You mentioned the word brotherhood, Darren, and I was thinking a little bit about the number 34 and how you wore that under your hat, and how that was just such a big part of your career. What impact did Nick have on your life and career, and share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Nick Adenhart was a kid from rural Maryland that was for sure top of the first round pick, and then he had Tommy John his senior year of high school, and he dropped down to the later, a few rounds later, but got first round money from the Angels. So he's a big prospect. He's a can't miss guy. He had really advanced stuff, and a great pitcher coming out of high school. And so I'm this scrap, stray dog, sidearm reliever that nobody expected to see me in professional baseball at all, let alone the major leagues. So I get to the minor leagues not really knowing if I belong, and not knowing where it's going to end. I never truly believed I would belong to the major leagues until I was a couple years in. So as I went through the minor leagues, I worked hard. I did my best, and I was going to keep going until somebody told me to stop. But I went to Double-A pretty quickly, and that's where I met Nick. Nick was stalled out a little bit in Double-A, doing pretty well, but not blowing everybody's doors off like we expected from a talent like him. And so we get to know each other a little bit in Double-A. The next year we go to Major League Camp, and we're two of the youngest guys there in 2008. And Nick and I, like I said, are two of the youngest guys. We go to lunch a few times. We start to get to know each other. So fast forward through spring training, I make the team. Like I said, I jump straight from Double-A. Nick goes to Triple-A. So I make the Major League team. I stay there for about 6-8 weeks, and I start getting these paychecks, and I see, oh man, I'm making some money. I'm making a little bit of cash here. I wanted to make sure I pitched well enough to get that next check, because when you're a young kid on a roster like that, you just never know when it's going to end. So I started worrying about all the wrong things. I started worrying about not pitching bad instead of attacking hitters. So I was pitching to avoid mistakes. And what happened is I made mistakes, and I got sent to Triple-A, where I felt very sorry for myself pretty quickly when I got there, because I had quickly become accustomed to the major league lifestyle. And so of all the guys down on that team that could have pulled me aside and told me something, it was Nick Adenhart. There was a lot of veterans that didn't do it. Nick Adenhart had never been in major leagues at that time. And he pulled me aside. He's like, hey, dude, I've been here grinding a little bit. If you feel sorry for yourself when you're here in Triple-A and you're pouting and you're not being social and you think you're too good to be here, then, you're just going to keep going deeper in that pit. And so I was a little bit, maybe offended at first. And then the more I thought about it, the more he was right. And so that was the beginning of a really good, open, honest friendship we had there at Triple-A. And we stayed in touch a lot. I went back to the major leagues, pitched a little bit better. So then got injured at the end of the season, got DFA'd by the Angels. Now I'm a free agent. Nick stays with the Angels and has a great spring training 2009, goes out to celebrate his first really, really good start in the major leagues with a couple of his friends from Southern California. And, I texted him because it was the first night he'd ever really showed that talent. He went like 6 innings, 8 strikeouts, no walks, no runs or something. Some great line. And so I texted him, just so proud of him. I didn't call him, I should have. But he went out to celebrate that night and died in a drunk driving accident. And, that's what made it even more sad, is that was the first start. The very first night he really lived up to the promise that everybody had put onto him since he was a young kid coming out of high school. And I'm getting goosebumps talking about this now.
Yeah.
But what that event did for me personally, after I got over the grief of losing a friend and just the senseless nature of his death, and realizing that if I was still with the Angels, I probably would have been with him in that car. What it made me realize is that habit I had developed pitching in the major leagues, pitching to not make a mistake, was what was keeping me from succeeding. So combined with Nick's passing and a couple other events that happened in my professional career, it was just like, all right, F it. I don't know what the audience of this podcast is, but it was basically like, let's find out, let's stop worrying about all this silly stuff and just find out if I'm good enough to belong here. And I truly believe that maybe a small silver lining of Nick's death is that I was able to play for 14 more years after that with his number in my hat every single time I hit the field. So, I miss him. I wish he was still around to see it, and I would have loved to see his career. But that was the effect it had on me. Just realizing that no game is guaranteed, and just find out if you're good enough to be there, and let it eat. And so, a lot of credit to Nick for my personal success in my career.
Yeah, no doubt. And then, Darren, you get to Baltimore, and you kind of did let it eat, and that was, certainly those great years in Baltimore. And, it seemed like it would have been fun because it was a young core, and I'm sure, you and Liz and, it's probably a lot of other people that were in that same boat, some of these, younger guys that were trying to be successful and do their thing. And, like, what finally made it click there in Baltimore and how that got going?
Well, it was always playing against Baltimore in the early 2000s. It was always tough on pitchers because they mashed. They always hit, but they could never pitch.
Yeah.
And nobody really wanted to play there. They didn't have a lot of fans. It gets incredibly hot in the summer there. And it was kind of an organization that was stuck in a rut. So then they hire Buck Showalter, who's, I think, the greatest architect of turning franchises around in the major leagues. He never fulfilled his ultimate goal of winning the World Series, but he built extremely competitive franchises. So that's what he did. I mean, he was the architect of that rebuild with some help from the front office as well. But it was, they kept the hitters they had. They had some really good young talent, and they brought in a few veterans, and that talent started to mature in a big way. 2012. Was Baltimore's first winning season in a long, long time. And I was lucky enough to be part of it. And you mentioned, boy, how much fun those years were, because it felt really organic. It felt like we were part of, the come up of the Orioles baseball in a proud sports town that, frankly, loves sports almost to an unreasonable level, because that's all they have there. Football, crabs, sports, baseball. That's really what they got in Maryland. It's a great city, and I've grown to love it. But they just love some sports, and it was such a fun time. Being that young, no kids, just really getting the most out of everyday life for sure.
You get to be an all-star in Baltimore. You have this amazing career, longevity. The hobby's got to know. I mean, you've probably got some pretty cool memorabilia or something that you've tucked away, as well as maybe some baseball cards over the years. Seeing yourself on cards and here and there. So I want to know, like, is there something you got, a prized possession or a piece that we would call PC, personal collection, that you put away?
Yeah. So I did have the opportunity to get a lot of autographs. It's just for people listening and watching, the way it works is if Shohei Ohtani is in the opposing locker room, I send one of, I buy his jersey. I send it over with one of the clubhouse employees. He takes it over there. You can even write a note. Hey, Shohei, would you personalize this to me or to my dad or whoever? And I did that a little bit, not enough, to be honest. I regret that a little bit. Most of my jerseys in my basement are people I would consider friends.
Cool.
My one really cool one I have is an old Nolan Ryan one from the Astros tricolor.
Ooh.
When he was my boss when I was with the Texas Rangers. And the reason I love that one is because I love talking about Nolan. He's exactly who you would expect him to be. He's not warm and fuzzy. He's polite, but man, I think he was probably in his mid to late 60s when I knew him. Man, I was still scared of him. He was a roughneck. So, it just says to Darren, thank you for your work for the organization, Nolan Ryan. And, no Hall of Fame, a little addition to it. He's just a no frills guy. My very favorite, another Hall of Famer, and a guy I would consider a friend, Jim Thome. I got to play with him right at the end of his career. And Jim he's so focused on being just the coolest dude that's ever played in the major leagues, the nicest, most considerate guy, that he doesn't care about grammar and spelling. So when I sign a jersey, I write it out on a piece of paper. So I know exactly what I want to write. I know my grammar, my punctuation, everything is correct. He just doesn't care, man. And that's what makes him great. There's like 3 grammatical errors on it. There's the misspelling, the wrong there's in it. Commas are all over the place. But we used to call each other Vikings because Jim Thome, have you ever seen him? I mean, he's big bone Midwest, but there's definitely some Viking blood in there. It just says from one Viking to another.
Oh, that's awesome. On
the jersey. So, personalized stuff like that, the really, it's all my buddies on my walls. And that's what I really value the most.
Yeah, it's you mentioned brotherhood again. Earlier I'm just thinking about all this and how it's permeated into your memorabilia collecting and what you put away, and that's awesome to hear because so many people will always say like, "Hey, I'm looking for the highest or the rarest piece or the guy who passed away, who a Pete Rose, something." But when I hear what you're saying, it was the things that made the most memories, and that's what you put away and that's what you cherish. So that's a side of the hobby that I think baseball cards or memorabilia that we're losing in this day and age, where there's a lot of flippers and so many people focus on value and investment, where what you just said is, I think, key. And so thank you for that. That's a cool answer. So thinking a little bit about this now with the kids, I mean, it's a big thing now, baseball cards. There was a big chase with this Paul Skeens card recently, $1 million card, and Livy Dunn's tweeting that she'll give you a chance to come sit in the press box with her if you get the card, and all these crazy things going on with baseball cards. So do you collect anything with the kids now?
So my oldest boy is 7. My daughter is 10, but she doesn't care. She'd rather put them in her bike spokes than
Sure.
put them in a binder. So he had a coach this season who started giving out. He went to a card store and just asked for some giveaway cards, and he was giving the kids 10, 15 cards every game.
Yeah.
And so now he's starting to get into it. I do have a good card story from when I was a kid. I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida. The Dodgers used to train down in Vero Beach before they moved to Phoenix. And I was a catcher, and I had a good arm. I was big. And so Mike Scioscia was my favorite player when I was a little kid, one of my favorites. And so we go to Dodgers spring training, and I'm standing there, I think for 3 days in a row, I tried to get Scioscia to sign my card, and he was too busy running off to do something. And now that I've lived his life, I understand it, because catchers are the busiest guys on the field, especially in spring training. They have so many responsibilities, in all phases of the game. But when I was a rookie, Scioscia was my manager, and my dad brought my baseball cards up from my childhood home, and I see this Mike Scioscia card that's in this special little plastic case, and I remembered that, and I go, "Oh man!" So I take it to the field, and Mike Scioscia is now my manager, and I got to tell him the story of him blowing me off 3 days in a row when I was this little kid. And he had some smart ass answer for it. Just, I ain't got time to sign every autograph. And leave it on my desk. I'll sign it. So he was a bit surly. Good manager, obviously, and great sense of humor. So it made for some funny moments when I was a rookie.
That's awesome. So not rookie anymore. You mentioned the broadcast side, and you had this perspective for all these years on that player side, and I guess I wonder now, in my world, and you see just all the access and the things you have to do, but it's got to be cool because I know maybe how analytical you are, how much you study that stuff. Is it fun, like preparing to do a game now as a broadcaster and having all that information and looking at spin rates or doing different things?
It really is. I think baseball, more than any other sport, attracts like a spectrum of fans. You got the super nerds that want to know about spin rates. They want to know. And I can say that because I am one.
Sure.
And, I had to kind of think my way through my career tactfully because I just didn't have blow away. I didn't have amazing stuff. So I had to look for every advantage I could. And that process of doing that for so long has served me well in this role as a broadcaster. At first, I didn't know how to prepare. I didn't know what fans wanted to hear about. My job as a color guy is just to add context to the game. What just happened? What did they just hear about from the play-by-play guy, or what did they just see on TV? And my baseball experience has served me well, but also I was very interested in all the analytics of baseball and how these teams quantify players. And so I've mixed both of those things together, and I try to offer something for every type of fan on the spectrum, whether it's, just a goofy locker room story about Matt Olson for the casual fan, or it's, analysis of spin rates of Chris Sale, or what makes his new changeup so good. He learned a new changeup getting last season and won a Cy Young Award, frankly, because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that pitch did not get enough attention in my opinion, but that's the kind of thing I'll bang on about while I'm on the air. This is a new pitcher. This is the best version of Chris Sale that's ever pitched in the major leagues, and it's all because of this one pitch. And I love talking about what makes these players great, because I know how hard it is just to be there, but to succeed at a level like the guy that Chris Sale did last year. Man, that's just amazing. So if you can try to explain to fans what makes it great, that's really where the sweet spot is.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Pretty special stuff. All right, so you passed this part of the interview. Now we come to the end. A lot of people have tried, but not many have been able to pass our Titan MRI rapid fire questions. So we're going to throw some stuff at you. Kind of first thing comes to mind. If there's a story, obviously throw it out there, but we'll have some fun with this. All right, you ready to handle this thing?
Do it.
All right, so since we were talking about radio, let's start with there. You and Ben throughout the rally robe last year. How often did that thing work?
I think it worked twice. I think we wore them three times, and then the problem with those rally robes, got a little hot in the summer here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So it got a little hot in the booth because we always broadcast with the windows open, and beginning of the season it's pretty chilly, but man, hit about April, May, it's like I got to get rid of this robe.
Yeah, you're struggling for sure. All right, so when did you pitch the best? No facial hair, kind of the look you have now, like that slow little scruff face, or like when you had the Santa Claus beardy look?
You know what? I went through a phase where it's like, all right, I'm losing some hair. I'm like, I'm going to see what I look like bald. And I remember 2014, I shaved my head. As soon as I walk in the locker room, my teammates start horse laughing me, just calling me all kinds of names. And I felt, frankly, kind of ugly. And I think that me feeling less than attractive made me a better pitcher. So for a while there, after that, I pitched well in 14. That was the best season of my career. That's when I made the All-Star team. Happened to be the first time I shaved my head, too. So I think I pitched the best. Not the facial hair didn't matter. It's the head hair.
Okay. That makes sense. Good stuff. Who was your first big league strikeout?
Brendan Harris.
Okay.
I needed it. I almost gave up a grand slam home run in my major league debut. It was foul by about a foot. Adam Everett would have changed the course of my career and my life.
Wow.
But I dodged it, struck out Brendan Harris, ended up getting out of it, no runs.
Game of inches, man.
Yeah,
that's what it is. All right, so then on the other side of that, who hit first home run off of you? Can you remember?
I don't. I know Grady Sizemore was one of my first ones.
Okay.
And until that point, the Angels had let me face lefties, and then after that, they're like, he's not allowed to face lefties. So I remember that was a big one and a big spot when I was a rookie. So he might have been my first one.
Okay, sweet.
All right, for a guy to be your first one, I picked a handsome guy.
Oh heck yeah, that's what it's all about.
There you go.
All right, I've been around you, and you kicked my ass in Jeopardy. So, could you win Celebrity Jeopardy if asked to be on it?
Oh yeah, Celebrity Jeopardy is like training wheels, man. Yeah, I tried to get on Jeopardy, and the test to get on Jeopardy is harder than the show. But yeah, in college, this sounds kind of goofy. Sounds like I went to Vanderbilt or something, but we used to play Jeopardy on video games, the baseball team, and it would be me against whoever would come.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if they ever beat me, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. And obviously, the All-Star game was a lot of fun. So when Buck called you into the office and said you were an All-Star, and this is an audience, and you can say whatever you want. Like, what was the word that came into your head, or what was your thought?
It was truly just disbelief and a little bit of fright, honestly. Disbelief because I had put up some good years. I never thought a middle reliever setup guy would get the call, but I guess I did it for 3-4 years in a row, and they thought, we might as well recognize this. And then you get there, and it's all the best players in the world. You're standing on a line for the national anthem, and you look down the line, it's like, I can't believe I'm standing in a group with these guys. Because even though I'd been in major leagues for 6-7 years at that time, it was the next level. And I didn't get to play. I warmed up a couple times. To be honest, that whole weekend was pretty stressful. And I'd be better prepared to do it a second time. But I'm not upset I never got selected to a team again, because those 3 days off were pretty clutch in the middle of summer.
Yeah, for sure. All right, who's a better broadcaster, you or Liz?
Oh, come on, man. I used to think her job was easy until I did some TV. It's a different level. She's worked at all the major cable news networks. She did her time doing cat fashion shows in Panama City Beach, Florida when she first started out. So she's been grinding on it for 20 plus years. She's levels above me.
Yeah, amazing stuff. All right, best golf course you've ever played?
This one's pretty good, the one I'm wearing here, Arcadia Bluffs. It's up in Michigan, beautiful, right on the lake, links course. I think my very favorite was Marion in Philadelphia, just because it's such a unique course and they play the U.S. Open there so often. I think that's probably the top of my list.
Okay. Ever had a hole-in-one?
I haven't. I've had a bunch of hole outs from the fairway, but never off the tee.
Maybe neither,
today's
man.
the day.
Yeah, today's the day. That'd be special. If that's the case, send us a shot. We'll throw it here on the podcast. Mix it in there. Best golfer teammate you've ever had?
Probably Bryce Elder. He's a kid that pitched for the Braves. He's the one I played with some other good golfers, but I haven't played much golf. I played a lot with Bryce. He was going to play golf at University of Texas and chose to just focus on baseball. So it's like a metronome out there golfing, perfectly straight, right down the middle of the green, 1 or 2 putts, and it's a real sleepy 70 he shoots.
Hate those guys, Jameel.
Yeah, right?
This can do it. All right, let's go back to your Gator roots a little bit. Who do you hate more, Georgia, Florida State, Miami, or LSU?
Well, the easy one on there that I don't hate is LSU. I love those guys. They my freshman year at Florida, they were offering me booze, food, introducing me to pretty girls that could transfer there. And I said, I love these guys. They're awesome. And I can't hate Georgia now. I live in Atlanta now, and so I'm in enemy territory. So probably I'd have to say Florida State.
Okay,
it's a good answer.
Yeah, good answer. Did you ever get ejected?
Yeah. Yes, in the major leagues once, and I got my money's worth. I had to apologize to my mom the next day. I said everything I wanted to say, except for calling the umpire a wiener, and I'll explain that. Adam Jones had a bounty that if you got ejected and you called an umpire a wiener, he'd pay you $1,000 because these umpires have to write down what names you called them for them to prompt them to eject you. And so he just thought it would be hilarious if that was in one of the official reports. And in the heat of the moment, I forgot to spit it out.
Oh, man.
$1,000
that would have been sweet.
Wiener loss.
Yeah, it was a big mistake.
Big mistake. Speaking of mistakes, I know this wasn't your fault, but let's go back to Texas. And for those that don't know, how did Kaysen Gabbert do against Peter Millar?
Kevin Millar.
Or Kevin Millar, yeah.
Kevin Millar, yeah. Peter Millar makes nice
shirts. Yeah, he makes nice shirts.
Yeah, that was crazy, man. I was sitting on so when I got designated by the Mets and went home, and there's a period of like a week where something can happen. I'm sitting at home in Panama City Beach where we were living at the time, and Rangers call, and they pick me up. They want me in Toronto that night. Okay, great. Sure, let's play in the major leagues. Well, the problem is they had to tax the bullpen night before, tax the bullpen that night. They go to extras. They say, hey, instead of going to the hotel tonight, you're coming to the field. And so they didn't have a uniform for me because they told the clubhouse guys that I wasn't going to be active that night, even though I was on the roster. And so I'm stretching in my jeans, and they're trying to rip the name off another jersey, and they just basically said, all right, screw it. Here, take this jersey, go out there and pitch. So I pitched in Kaysen Gabbert's jersey. It was ridiculous. It was, I'm meeting my teammates. I'm meeting my manager on the mound during a major league game. I've never worked with the catcher before. And the very worst part of that whole deal was after the game, if you blow, so I give up the winning sacrifice fly to Kevin Millar. I walk off without even watching the rest of the game, and I go to the locker. I don't even have a locker, so I just sit in an empty one. And the worst part of the whole deal was all my friends all these teammates having to come up that I never met before, like, hi, my name's Brandon. Sorry about the tough game. Or, he's like guys you've never met are doing their teammate duty, trying to make you feel better. It was so awkward. I got pretty drunk that night. That was one of the great resets of my career.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, so last thing, since we're talking about the hobby, you get to be around the Braves all the time, but are there any one or two guys that that Jameel should say, hey, you got to get this kid's card, or you got to are there some up and comers or people you saw last year that maybe they should invest in?
Well, the cat might be out of the bag, but I think Spencer Schwellenbach's going to be pretty special. He had such limited time in the minor leagues that what he's doing now is he's just a unicorn. The composure, the confidence he has, and then 6+ pitches. About 5 or 6 starts into his career last year, I started looking at the numbers. I was away from the team for a while. I came back, and I looked at this work he had done while I was gone. It's like, whose numbers these look like? These look like vintage Chris Sale numbers. They look exactly the same in terms of how much he's trying to get. He's getting batters to go out of the zone and whiff rate and all this stuff. So I think that kid, that's part of the reason they let Max Fried walk. You pair him with Spencer Strider for the next 5 years, and Chris Sale and Ana Lopez. I think that's part of the reason they're pretty quiet this offseason is the emergence of Spencer Schwellenbach.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, last one. Were you ever in awe of a stadium when you walked in, Yankees or Boston or, somewhere that, you'd just grown up loving?
Yeah, old Yankee Stadium, man. I was lucky. I played in 2008, which was the last season of the old stadium, and just the history in that building. I loved it. You talk to all the major league players, even though the facilities under where we spend most of our time here today were awful. That old stadium, just you could feel it in the metal and the wood of who had played there and who had watched these games and all these generations of fans and historic games. So, and then later in my career, I went on to play there. And the new stadium is very nice. It's just kind of like a hospital to me. It's very antiseptic. There's not a lot of personality. The old one was just overflowing with character. So that was probably the one.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah. So we before we sign out, are you a social guy? Do you got a Twitter or Instagram people can follow and get some takes from Darren? On the nerd side.
Yeah. I have all those accounts. I can't even. I think it's at the O'Day 56.
Okay.
But I'm not real active. I'm more of a creeper online.
That's right.
I feel like if you want to hear what I have to say, you probably have to tune into Braves Radio 6.
There we go. Well, around the corner. We're in February, man. Baseball is right around the corner, so we'll be listening in.
All right, awesome. Enjoyed it, guys.
Yep. Darren, thanks, man. Or you can eventually. Our goal is now to get Darren on Jeopardy. So
there we go.
We're going to make that happen.
I better start studying.
That's right. You got it. All right, buddy. Appreciate you. Good luck.
All right, guys.
All right, great. Darren O'Day joining us here on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast. We'll take a break, come back, and tell you about the new wax coming up. A lot of good stuff as we get closer and closer to spring training. Back with more right after this.
Albert, Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
All right, welcome back. Great stuff from Darren O'Day there, and it's just it's fun, and I've had a lot of conversations with him, and I think everybody that's out there, you obviously wish you were ever a part of a major league locker room or an NFL locker room or NBA, and these guys, just the bond that they have, because he's right, they spend 6, 7, 8 hours a day together, and you got to get there early and go through BP and do all these other things, but it's like another family. And I think for you grow up sometimes with other families and their kids around the locker rooms, and having those bonds is really cool. I mean, there's certainly so many great stories that we couldn't even get to, but we could do 800 hours on the different things. But
The
think about that.
Right?
Yeah,
you think about that in baseball compared to other sports.
Yeah.
Football, people are gone every other year. Basketball, you're Luka Doncic, you can get traded in like this. I mean, I think, it's interesting to think with baseball. You see a little bit more longevity, I think, with organizations, and more of a family tie is what you kind of understand from the clubhouse.
Yeah.
And so you understood that too. And
think about 162 games too, as opposed to 18 in the NFL or
and the travel
80
to all
something,
that, and the spring training, right? So it's a lot, and then postseason if you make the postseason. So it's almost a whole year if you think about it.
Yeah, and I think to everybody that probably heard too, wow, it was that easy. You could just get the clubhouse guy to go over and get somebody else's jersey and sign it.
Yeah.
Should have gotten a million of those over the years.
I'm sure there's probably some limits.
Like
you mentioned
Griffey,
Ohtani.
Bonds, Ohtani,
I don't know about Ohtani just taking there's like 75 jerseys for him to sign after every game from the other team.
Yeah.
There may be some limits on it. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, seems like there's never any limits on wax getting put out. It's just crazy yet again. And it's not just the cards. I'm finding out that there are obviously the Pokemon stuff and Star Wars and NASCAR and soccer and tennis and how about Ben Shelton? Those cards were.
Ben Shelton's playing also. We got love to get him on the podcast. So Ben, I know you're listening. This is the top thing you're listening to in those headphones on the court. But we'd love to have you on here. But Ben is another amazing talent from Florida. We've had we talk about Jack Caglione. We talk about DJ. I'm just talking about current guys. DJ Lagway. Ben Shelton, guys that are in the news and in the hub right now, and it's amazing to see.
Grant Holloway. Katie
Ledecky, Caleb Dressel.
Yeah,
I mean, just the things that we've seen, and we're just really fortunate and blessed with athletics here. And who knows what's going to be the future? There's more stuff coming. Baseball's around the corner. Jack's actually breaking cards with one of my shout out to Suncoast Sports. He's breaking Bowman Draft with them today.
Sweet.
So it's fun seeing just these guys get in the hobby as well.
Good. All right. So give us some wax. There's got to be a bunch.
Yeah, there's a lot this week. We've had kind of some off weeks, and I'm excited. Number one for us, we do a lot of non-sports, but there's a product coming out called Star Wars Galactic Antiquities, and it's a first time they've put out a high-end Star Wars product in the last five-ish years, I would say. So you've got autographs in there, rare autographs from people like Natalie Portman. I can't think of Mandalorian's name off the top of Pedro Pascal. All these really rare. Mark Hamill has autographs in it. Harrison Ford has autographs in it. There's a Princess Leia sticker autograph in there. Carrie Fisher, who's passed away. So these are unique things that Topps is doing with non-sports. So the one drawback is, people, when you talk high-end, you got to talk high-end amount of money. So it's one pack, I think 9 cards, close to $3,000, right? So Star Wars cards, I mean, that's you just talked about. It's a major thing. Another huge release this week, 2024 Topps Diamond Icons, which to me, that's kind of like the logo man set. What I mean by that is the baseball, the little man on the back of there he is right there. The little man swinging the bat. They have the logo man patches and the autos that they put in, but they don't just have them for current players. You see some vet, like I saw Cal Ripken 101 logo man. So that's really cool to think. That was from his jersey. There's an autograph card of that. So that's coming out. Diamond Icon's a very high-end set We just did a Transcendence set not too long ago. We pulled a 1/1 Grover Cleveland cut autograph presidential, $4,000 or $5,000 card. Amazing things to see in the Topps product. So another big one coming out with Diamond Icons. There's Dynasty Formula One, which is out this week. There's Donruss Football, which is out this week. Photogenic Football, Rookies and Stars Football. So there's some Panini products, a heavy football week.
Okay.
And we're going to start to see now the prime Jaden Daniels stuff. Prism came out, but we're still got Select coming down the pipeline. We still have Optic, National Treasures, Immaculate. So we're still flawless. We're still going to see all those high-end Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams cards. Maybe not autograph, but we're going to see a lot of the patches and the rookie card variants, which are going to pop out. And then lastly, you might have seen it on the I think we showed a video of one of our last podcasts, but the Pokemon 151 Blooming Waters collection comes out this week, which was the Costco. They had it 2 weeks early, so everybody was fighting each other in Costco, beating each other up over these Pokemon boxes. We'll have them in our shop. You cannot fight in our shop.
That's right.
I'll lay Tim on you. Big Tim will knock you out if you try and fight in our shop. No, we don't have much of it coming in. So it's one of these things where Pokemon just continues to surge. There's a product coming out called Journey Together, their next big release, and we're already getting people coming in. Hey, can I pre-order it? Can I get it? It's like months away, right? So looking forward to all that. A lot of new wax coming out, but what I would say next week, WNBA Prism, Caitlin Clark, her Black 101 card is probably going to go for $250,000 to $500,000. And then also Top Series 1 baseball comes out next week. So I know we're doing podcasts every other week, so we'll have maybe some Top Series 1 in a couple weeks to rip with Jeff.
Yeah, that'll be sweet. And somebody did rip an 11-year-old, the Paul Skeens card, and I know he has declined to go hang out with Livy Dunn.
Yeah, wild.
So, gosh, you'd think 11-year-old would be all over that. Yeah. But the fact is now it's going to be put out there. Like, is there anything that you can think of value-wise that this is going to go for?
It's probably going to go. I think it's going to Golden. It got graded PSA 10, right? 10, 10 or 10. And I have a feeling it's got enough hype around it right now to hit the 7-figure mark, $1 million card. And for baseball, that's saying quite a bit.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying $500,000. I think there'll be there's much more hype in this card than we've ever seen in a baseball card. So I think you're probably going to get around that $500,000 to $1 million mark. I think Golden might be running it. And if not, we'll see what happens. It's a wild card. If it was something that I had, I think that the hype has brought so much attention to it. You do sell it now. Not to knock on Skeens, and I just saw a video of him throwing the other day. Nasty stuff. I mean, the movement he has on his ball is crazy, but can his hype level sustain for his career? I mean, for a pitcher outside of, we heard it earlier with Darren, Nolan Ryan, right? There's not many other names that, are up in that. You talk about some of the older Sandy Cope. There's not many names in that list. So what will happen with his cards down the line? He's at an all-time high for value, but that's the card market. That's the risk in the gamble you take.
Yeah, that's what it is. All right, well, never a risk to go check out all the great stuff that they have, and certainly what we do each and every other week now here on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast. But tell your friends about it. We're on so many different platforms to get out there and check us out. And best of luck in searching for these wax cards and all the things that are happening. Get those big hits.
Meelypops.com, scmeelypops.com for getting your wax. We have an extensive eBay. If you guys ever want to go on our eBay, it's just Meelypops. There's so many singles on there. And then for breaks, if you want to find a place to break, we're always the neighborhood-friendly breaker, like Spider-Man. So we have, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and whatnot options where you can break with us.
Awesome stuff. All right. For Jameel, I am Jeff. That'll do it for another edition of the Meelypod Hobby Podcast.
Thank you for joining us. We will see you next Thursday at noon.